This is Sportsline.
Hey there, Sportsline on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us. It's a Monday night. We're staying safer at home, or in my case, in the studio. There's not a single person around, so I'm actually very safe in here at this point. But good to be with you. There's always sports things to talk about, even if there are not a lot of games out there. NFL free agency roaring on throughout the course of the weekend. Obviously, some big signings last week. Tom Brady officially to the Buccaneers. The Titans obviously re-signing Ryan Tannehill, quarterback. They franchise tag Derrick Henry. That'll be an interesting sort of storyline to watch. Obviously, Henry back for next season, which is important. But can they work out a long-term deal before July 15th to make sure that Henry's a part of this offense, not just in 2020, but for several seasons to come after the value he's brought the last 2 years? So that's a storyline to look at. You've got Dennis Kelly, now the right tackle, after Jack Conklin goes to Cleveland. Kelly gets the opportunity to be a full-time starter in the National Football League for the first time in his career. The Titans make the decision to go out and sign Vic Beasley and deal with him in their locker room. It's going to be an interesting thing when it comes to Beasley, because when you look at him in Atlanta, he showed flashes of being one of the most dominant pass rushers in the league. In 2016, he led the league in sacks. But then in 17 and 18, he wasn't always there. And there was criticism about, did he have the motor? Did he have the effort that you want to see from guys at that position, or any position, frankly? Something the Titans certainly pride themselves on. Last year he bounced back and he had 8 sacks. It was a little bit more up to what you might expect for someone like that. But that's what we're looking at here, is the Titans are hoping that Vic Beasley can come in and regain the form he had from a couple of years ago, and he can really help out their pass rush. Because the number one thing you heard people talk about in the Titans locker room at the end of the season, and specifically after the loss to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, is we have to figure out a way moving forward to better affect opposing quarterbacks. We just have to. Because right now we're not doing enough in that regard. And when you let the best quarterbacks in the league, the Patrick Mahomes, sit back there and have time, they're going to tear you apart. And so you have to find a way to impact the game that way. And the Titans just have not been able to do that consistently for several years now. They tried Cam Wake last year. He went to injured reserve. Harold Landry had a solid season, but where were the reinforcements in that regard? That's the hope that a Vic Beasley can bring you. That maybe you get him back into that double-digit sack range, and now all of a sudden you've got to watch out for something when it comes to the Titans. So that's where they're operating right then. We've seen some other moves, Chris Milton, Michael Pruitt over the weekend, and then just tonight the Titans reaching out and agreeing to terms, according to the NFL Network, with Nick DeZubner, who is a special teams stalwart who's played his entire career up to this point with the Chargers, 28 years old. And to me, what this says is the Titans are going a little bit more inexpensive, but with a guy who's got productivity to replace Darren Bates, who's one of their guys who's been a big part of this team over the last few years, who is also a free agent and has had no action up to this point. But Bates was commanding more money than that in recent years. And so, to me, the signing of DeZubner probably means that Darren Bates' time in Tennessee is done. And now DeZubner takes over that role as kind of the special teams captain. He's a linebacker like Bates, but he's a special teams guy. All 60 of his career tackles have come on special teams in his time with the Chargers. So that's what he's being brought in for, is to do that. He comes in on a one-year deal, and we will see how he is able to perform. You just got other deals around the league, too, that people are always talking about, and we can get into some of those as we move along tonight. Phone lines are open, by the way. 737-7767 is the number. Other stories going on in the world of sports, we'll touch into those as well. A sad story here, though, locally today with the news that former Vanderbilt coach Woody Wiedenhofer has passed away at the age of 77. He was living out in Colorado Springs. He suffered a stroke about a month ago and apparently had another one over this weekend and then passed away late Sunday night in Colorado Springs with one of his daughters by his side. One of his sons actually still lives here in Nashville. So it's a great family. Woody Wiedenhofer is a guy that is known for his humor, his humility, his friendliness with a lot of people. And he's one of the great defensive masterminds we've seen as well. He won 4 Super Bowl titles as part of the architect group of the Steel Curtain in Pittsburgh. He was first a linebackers coach, then a defensive coordinator as they had that great run there in Pittsburgh. Later went on to become the head coach at his alma mater, Missouri. Didn't have a whole lot of success over a 4-year run there. And then came to Vanderbilt in the 90s and helped build a very good defense here. Ultimately got promoted to be head coach in 1997. That year, Vanderbilt had the best defense in the SEC. That's how good he was on that side of the ball. It never really materialized into a lot of wins. Vanderbilt went just 15-40 during Wiedenhofer's time here, but he won a lot of people over. He's a guy that often was just known as Woody wherever he went. They had a slogan in Missouri when he got there that was on board, on the wagon with Woody. And so he's kind of known just by that first name. He's funny and humble, too. One of my favorite stories of Woody Wiedenhofer is when he decided to stop coaching. This is late, probably 2007 or so. He moved to Florida and started working at a toll booth down there just to have something to do during the days. That was the type of guy he was. And so he did that, and a lot of people remember him fondly. Candace Story, the new athletic director at Vanderbilt, was a women's basketball player during the Wiedenhofer tenure as football coach and said she knew so many people that were personally impacted by Wiedenhofer during his time there and offered her condolences and prayers for his family and those who knew him today through an official statement through the school over at Vanderbilt. So certainly some sad news there. But other things to talk about in the world of sports as well. The COVID-19 saga continues to have its effect on the sports calendar for sure. Today, European soccer, the Champions League, UEFA announcing that the Champions League postponed indefinitely, along with the Women's Champions League and the Europa League. So those championships that normally are heating up right about now, the Champions League at least is in the round of 16 currently. That's when it got interrupted. They weren't able to finish that. But then you go hot and heavy down the stretch to the championship right around Memorial Day. They've said all of that is postponed indefinitely. So who knows if we're even going to have those played this year. But that's where you are right now with that. And also a report today because of one of the International Olympic Committee members talking on the record to Sports Illustrated that it sounds like the Olympics may be postponed from 2020 to 2021 in Tokyo. Of course, that wouldn't be surprising. We've heard that Canada say they would not send athletes under the current climate. Australia has said the same. Few other countries at least hinting at that, if not pledging that they would not send athletes. And at some point, if a bunch of countries pull out, it's not really the Olympics anymore, is it? There are a ton of logistics to be dealt with here about moving the Olympic Games, and the IOC said yesterday that they're going to spend the next month looking at that and also getting all of the information from around the globe at where exactly we are in this COVID-19 crisis. But they're talking with their own experts and trying to figure that out and figuring out what it would take. I mean, you're planning on a month or 2 months, because you have to throw the Paralympic Games in there as well. You're talking about a 2-month, even more than that when you think about the volunteers and all the effort to go into it. You know, probably about a 3-month effort over the course of this summer into the fall to pull those games off, that you would just be essentially picking up on the calendar and moving 12 months into the future. That's a difficult thing to do. I'd even heard a story that some of the housing that was supposed to be used for the games this summer is going to go into residential use when the games are over in the fall. So how do you change those plans as you move on into the future with all of this? So there's going to be a lot of logistics that have to be worked out, but at some point, if you don't have countries willing to compete, you can't really hold the games. Obviously, if it's a public health crisis that continues into the summer, you can't hold the games. And, I mean, even as it stands right now, as we're all dealing with this and pushing various things back, leading up to the games every year, you know, the official opening ceremonies are supposed to be July 24th in Tokyo. But just from the U.S. alone, but this is true in every other country, you have all sorts of time trials and national trials and those sort of things to even select the team. You're running out of time to contest all of those. And so how do you even come together with what your Olympic team is in some of these situations, depending on how this health crisis goes? So I don't think you're going to have official word from the IOC anytime immediately, but certainly a sign today from an IOC member saying it very likely is going to be postponed into 2021, that there's a good shot that the summer calendar is not going to include the Olympic Games this year. Our phone lines are open tonight, 737-7767. If you want to talk free agency, you want to talk COVID-19, anything else you want to bring up, we can get into that right now. And we've also got some free agency talk. Jonathan Hutton, our guy there, and a really cool phone call today from Mike Vrabel. I'll set up the story for you as we move along, but this is something you're going to want to hear. As we all sit at home and sort of wonder what's next, frankly, it's quite lonely for some people. Mike Vrabel going out of his way today to brighten the day of one individual in particular. Pretty cool stuff. We'll get to that coming up on the show tonight as well. Again, phone lines open, 737-7767. We're just getting started. This is Sportsline on News Channel 5+.